We're now at the midway point of our horror month, which of course is all about death, but today we're going to look at some people trying to cheat it. As today, the channel points a quest of Stale, we're going to look at Final Destination, released in the year 2000. So Final Destination is a supernatural horror film which was directed by James Wong. Wong, along with Glenn Morgan and Jeffrey Reddick, did the screenplay. Wong and Morgan are best known for being co-writers of The X-Files. Jeffrey Reddick actually originally wrote the script for this as an episode of The X-Files and brought it to Morgan and Wong, and they decided to turn it into its own movie. The film starred Devon Sawa, Ali Larter, Kerr Smith, Kristen Cloak, Daniel Roebuck, Tony Todd, and Seann William Scott. It centers around 5 high school students and a teacher that cheat death by getting off a plane flight that moments later blows up. The main character out of them, named Alex, later discovers that there was a design for them to die, and in order to stay alive, they have to figure out how to cheat death. The film received very mixed reviews from critics, ranging from "this is a great horror film" to "this is fucking terrible," and on a strong budget of $23 million, it made back $113 at the box office. And this of course spawned an entire franchise, with Final Destinations 2, 3, 4, and 5 being released in 2003, 6, 9, and 11 respectively, and an untitled 6th film is currently in pre-production. But those are for later down the line. For now, were Alex and friends able to cheat death and survive this one? We're going to find out right now as we look at Final Destination, released in the year 2000. So our film begins in New York City with high school student Alex Browning, who's about to go on a senior trip to Paris, France. Also on the trip is his best friend Todd, and Alex seems to be incredibly superstitious, almost freaking out when he realizes that his boarding number is the same date as his birthday. They board the plane and take off, but then everything goes wrong very quick as the plane starts to blow up and everyone starts to die. Turns out all that didn't happen though, and it was just Alex having a vision, and then he screams for everyone to get off the plane. For whatever reason, another student named Carter gets very pissed at this and punches Alex in the face, and they're both kicked off the plane. Carter's girlfriend Terry, another student named Billy, and a teacher named Miss Luton also get caught up in this and are also kicked off the plane. Todd follows them off as well, as does a quiet student named Clear. The plane takes off without them, and Carter and Alex begin to fight again right as the plane blows up in midair, proving Alex's premonition to be true. Afterwards, they talk to some FBI agents who Alex tells about his premonition, but they seem to think he's crazy. A couple days later at a memorial, Alex notices that everyone is looking at him weird and seems to almost blame him, and Todd hasn't been talking to him because his parents won't allow him to. Clear approaches though and thanks Alex for saving her life and says that she believes him. I also would like to add that at this point we're half an hour into this film, which means we're a third of the way through. It really takes a while for stuff to get going in this one. Luckily though, stuff's finally about to happen. As an owl flies near Alex's window, he throws a magazine at it, which gets cut up by a fan. One part of the magazine comes back and lands on his lap, just showing the name Todd. Simultaneously as this happens, Todd in his bathroom at home slips on some toilet water and then is hung by some string wire that he was hanging clothes on, which kills him. Alex arrives on the crime scene where it was determined that his death was a suicide, but Alex thinks differently. Clear was also there that night, and the next day Alex goes to her house. She says that she was drawn there because she feels like her and Alex have a spiritual connection, and she also believes him in that Todd probably didn't commit suicide. But there's only one logical way to confirm this: break into the morgue, of course, and examine his corpse. And as they find Todd's body, they're confronted by a creepy-ass mortician named William Bloodforth. Bloodforth tells them that Death has a plan for everyone, and by getting off that plane before it blew up, they cheated the plan, but Death always comes back around. Clear and Alex discuss this the next day outside a coffee shop where conveniently all the other survivors of the plane crash show up. Carter and Alex begin to fight again, but Terry's about fed up with this situation and tells them that she wants to move on with her life, so she does move on, right into the path of a bus, which kills her instantly. That night, Alex sees a news report showing that the plane blew up when an electrical current went through certain parts of the plane and blew up in those spots. Turns out the spots in which it blew up were the exact spots where all of them were supposed to be sitting. And based off the seat patterns, Alex is able to determine that Miss Luton is next to die. Alex tries to go to Miss Luton's house to warn her, but she sees him outside and calls the FBI on him, and they show up and take him away. They don't have anything to really hold him on though, and he's released and tries to go back to Miss Luton's house. While this is going on though, Miss Luton accidentally spills water onto a computer which blows up the screen, sending glass into her neck. While she's stumbling around, she knocks over some flammable stuff which lights her house on fire. She then tries to grab a towel for whichever reason, which sends a steak knife down on her through her heart. Alex enters the house and attempts to save her, but a chair comes down on the knife fervor, which kills her. Alex then runs out of the house while Billy's outside as the whole place explodes. Clear then meets up with Billy and Carter, telling them that they have to find Alex, as he's the only one who knows who's gonna die next. And after they find him, Alex reveals that Carter is next on the list. Carter then decides to take matters into his own hands and stops on a train track, meaning to kill himself. Alex talks him out of it the last second though, but his car stalls and he can't seem to get out. Alex pulls him from the car at the last second, saving his life. However, afterwards, Billy starts freaking out, and then a piece of shrapnel gets hit by the train, which flies over and decapitates him. Alex then determines based off that because he saved Carter's life, death skipped him and went to Billy next, which means Alex is now next as well. Claire returns home, but before she does, she takes Alex to her dad's cabin, which he barricades up. The FBI stalk Claire's house, claiming that they just want to help Alex, so Claire tells them where he is. While thinking about the events, Alex remembers something crucial. In his vision, he switched seats with some girls, but in actuality, he didn't, meaning he wasn't actually next. Claire is next. And sure enough, outside Claire's house, some lightning strikes hit, which knocks some electrical wires loose. Back at the cabin, the FBI show up for Alex, but Alex gets away on a conveniently placed boat. While the FBI chase Alex through the woods, death is really coming for Claire as the electrical wires chase her back into her house and then start blowing her house up, and she locks herself in her car. She's now trapped in her car from the electrical wires and some spilled gasoline, but Alex shows up to save her. Alex realizes that the only way to save her is to grab the wire, which he does as she gets out of the car and explodes him into the garage. The FBI show up at the same time and say that Alex isn't breathing, meaning he's probably dead. But psych, he isn't dead, as we now jump to 6 months later, where Alex, Claire, and Carter have finally taken that trip to Paris. They've moved on for the most part, but there's one thing Alex can't get his head around. When he saved Claire, he almost died, but nobody saved him, which means he might still be next. After freaking out about this, he attempts to get away from the two and he's almost hit by a bus, which ends up hitting a sign, which goes into a neon sign, which swings down to kill him, but Carter saves him at the last second. But because Carter saved him, Death's events don't end, they loop, and the sign comes back and kills Carter to end the movie. So I talked about at the beginning how critics range from this movie being great to this movie being terrible. Honestly, I think it's somewhere in the middle. It's a really fun and innovative horror movie with a really unique idea of the whole death pattern and everything, and people dying in unique ways, which, trust me, will be expanded upon as the franchise goes on. However, the biggest problem is it just takes so long for anything to happen in this movie. There's just so much dead air, and I guess you can call it build, but the thing is, the acting's not good, which really makes you feel the build. You know, it makes you feel like, oh god, this is taking forever. Usually when you have good acting and something, or at least a good side plot which can distract, you know, or a series of events that can just help it feel less like it's taking forever, then you won't realize that it's taking forever. But this movie doesn't really have that. So just for a while, you're like, oh my god, can we just get to something? Because ultimately, that's what people watched this movie for, was for the fantastical kills. And there's just so much time in between it, it's hard to keep your interest. I had seen this movie once before, years ago, and honestly, I don't think it's aged very well. It's not nearly as good as I remember it. So ultimately, if you're looking to watch this Halloween for a horror movie, it's got some good kills, but it really is a slog to get through. All I can say is thank God this movie is only an hour and a half, because if this movie was 2 hours, oof, this would just be this would be a bona fide really bad movie if this was 2 hours. The runtime of only an hour and a half saves it a bit though. But that is going to do it for my look back at Final Destination. What did you think of the movie? Did you agree with my thoughts? Did you think differently? Let me know. That is going to do it though for me today. Thank you again, Stale, for using your points on this. And thank you for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to leave it a like. If you want to follow any of my social media links, they are all in the video description down below. With all that being said though, my name is Noah Taff. This has been my look back at Final Destination, released in the year 2000. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.